really wanted to know about, which is why I invited her to speak tonight. She is a plant-based chef, and she is going to do a presentation called Wow Without the Cow, How Science is Making Dairy from Yeast and Volcanoes. Please welcome Janay Laing! This up, very slick. There you go. All right. That's for you.
Hello. My name is Janay, and I was just thinking I'm kind of nervous too. I should have had a drink, but I don't drink. I wouldn't want to be drunk during this. Yes, I want to start off by asking a question. How many people, by show of hands, how many people eat cheese every day? Or almost every day? Okay, about half. Or maybe not cheese, but eat dairy products every day? Okay, most of them? Yeah, of course. Right. So my talk is how science is making dairy from yeast and volcanoes. How intriguing, right? Oh, my text is cut off, but on the top it says 6 billion people. That's how many people around the world consume dairy products. And the global population is 8 billion people, so that's quite a lot of people. And in the United States alone, cheese consumption is up 30% since the 1970s. We're drinking less milk, but we're consuming twice as much cheese. And why not? Dairy is amazing. Cheese, butter, milk, ice cream, they have amazing taste and flavor. Most of the foods that are popular in North America would not be the same without dairy products. And they have nutrition, they offer protein, calcium, so yeah, dairy products are great. But, there had to be a but, there is another lesser downside of dairy production that dairy companies typically don't like to show consumers because it's not pleasant, but this is the truth, so I want to show you some facts. Now, most milk products, dairy products that you get in restaurants and supermarkets come from very large industrial farms. And unfortunately, these farms have terrible, devastating consequences for the environment. And that starts with, the first one is climate change. So according to environmental groups and experts, dairy cows in particular emit substantial amounts of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane. And that is because, use my phone here, dairy cows are ruminants, so their digestive processes create a lot of gas, especially potent greenhouse gases like methane. Methane is considered worse than carbon dioxide. It has about 8 times more warming potential than carbon dioxide. So it's pretty bad. And dairy cows produce a lot of methane. And now I want to ask a trivia question. True or false? The domesticated dairy cow is the only mammal on Earth that can produce milk without having a baby. Can you raise your hand if you think it's true?
No.
I see some. And raise your hand if you think it's false. Okay, you're smart. I was trying to trick you a little bit. But, okay, I tried to word it in a way that seemed more plausible. But yes, most people are correct. Dairy cows are just like humans, dogs, cats, sheep, and giraffes. They have to have a baby to produce milk. And I brought this up because the dairy industry is very good at not mentioning this. They make it seem like cows are magical milk machines. They give milk spontaneously, but that's not true. They have to be pregnant first to produce milk. And up here, the text says the modern dairy cow. And if you look at the graphic over here, 50 years ago, well, in the 1950s, 50, 60 years ago, the dairy cows produced 1,000 gallons of milk per year. And since that time, they've been intensively bred to grow larger and to produce twice as much milk. So I'm sure most people have seen a dairy cow in person. They are massive. They are ginormous animals because of these breeding techniques. They weigh close to a ton, a lot of them. And the purpose of that is so that they produce more milk than ever before. Now, making all this milk requires a lot of feed. Milk production is very demanding on the body, so dairy cows eat a lot. And this has impact environment because millions of acres of land around the world have to be cleared to plant crops to feed these cows. So soy, corn, alfalfa, clover, water-intensive crops. And dairy cows consume a lot constantly. In addition to that, because they are large animals, they consume a lot, they produce tons of manure. Dairy cows produce more manure than any other farm animal. They produce about 120 pounds of manure per day, which is twice that of beef cows. Beef cows make about 60 pounds, dairy cows twice that amount. Most of this manure does not, some of it is turned into fertilizer, but most of it, farms don't know what to do with it. So it's dumped into waterways, rivers, lakes, and streams, where it can lead to algae blooms and cause massive fish kills and die. This is a very important study done by Oxford University. You can see the blue bar represents dairy milk. They wanted to compare the environmental impact of dairy milk versus other types of plant-based milk, non-dairy milk, like soy milk, oat milk, almond milk. And as you can see, dairy has a greater environmental impact than any other type of milk. Using every metric that they looked at, it uses more land, requires more fresh water, creates more greenhouse gases, and is responsible for more eutrophication, which is that water pollution that can cause algae blooms. And unfortunately, there is more. It gets a little worse. I'm so sorry. Yeah, not only is dairy farming harsh on the environment, it's harsh on cows themselves. Because, like I said, dairy cows have to be pregnant. So farmers keep them in a cycle where when they're about a year old, they're artificially inseminated. They're pregnant for about the same time as humans, 9 months, and then they give birth to a cow. But because that milk, these cows are fed milk machines, because the milk in those udders is a valuable commercial commodity for the farms, they can't let a calf naturally nurse from its mother, so within hours of birth, the cow is separated from its mother. And this causes a lot of emotional distress for the cow because her natural instinct is to nurse and care for her cow. And then she's hooked up to a milk machine, and she's milked for about 10 months until her milk supply dries up. And the cycle begins again. She's inseminated, gives birth, separated from her calf, and milked for 10 months. This process, this regimen of intensive milking takes a toll on the cow's bodies. Normally a cow lives to be 20 to 25 years, that's their natural lifespan. On dairy farms, they live to be 4 to 5 years old because they just cannot keep up with this intensive milking on their body. And after that, at that point, they're sent to slaughter. It's really sad, right? But there's good news. Make you sad, make you happy again. The good news is we do not need cows to make delicious dairy products. So you probably heard of plant-based dairy replacements made from coconut and soy milk, ice cream, butter, things like that. And some of those are really, really good. But you know what's even more exciting is making it from yeast and volcanoes. These are supposed to be dancing. The animation got messed up, but imagine like a dancing bag of yeast and a dancing volcano. Okay, so to see how this works, well, the thing is, the reason like vegan cheese doesn't taste as good as dairy cheese is because of these two very magical proteins, casein and whey. So casein is the reason when you pick up a slice of pizza, the cheese stretches like 10 feet into the air because casein has very special molecular properties that are only found in animal milk. It's not found in the plant kingdom. Casein is also the reason that pizza gets this amazing brown, the cheese turns brown in the oven and it goes. A lot of that is from casein. Whey is a protein that gives dairy a rich taste, makes it really creamy, and it has a lot of digestible protein. So about 10 years ago, a group of scientists looking at the environmental issues with dairy farming and the ethical problems, they wondered, would it be possible to make real dairy protein and from that make realistic dairy products without needing to farm a cow? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can do that. And that's thanks to these guys. So yeast we consume all the time in bread and beer and wine. here. Okay, but we consume yeast all the time. Yeast are like miniature factories. They have this amazing ability to ferment, right? They consume sugar and they output different substances like alcohol, carbon dioxide, different acids. So scientists realized they could harness this amazing power of yeast to ferment, to convert one substance into another. They could take that and train the yeast to create dairy proteins. This is the process. It's so sciencey, but making it very easy. So you start with yeast. They use regular brewer's yeast, which scientifically is called Saccharomyces. I don't know why my arrows are blurred out, okay, but the next step is genetic engineering. Take the yeast DNA and you insert bovine DNA into it. That's because scientists have mapped the entire bovine genome, and we know exactly what genes are responsible for creating the protein. So you take those specific genes that code for making casein protein or whey protein and insert it into the yeast DNA, and then they put the yeast into fermentation tanks like this, feed them sugar and nutrients to get the fermentation process started, and after a few hours or however the process, sometimes it's a few days, you end up with this real actual dairy protein that is bioidentical, so they say. It's molecularly identical to the protein found in cow's milk, and you did not need to farm a cow. So since 2014, dozens of startups around the world have gotten really interested in this space. Not just for dairy protein, but you can also do this for egg protein. You can make like albumin, which is a major protein in chicken eggs, using precision. Oh, I forgot to mention it's called precision fermentation. That's the genetic name for it. You can make gelatin, collagen, any type of animal protein that is considered valuable, that is normally hard to make because of the farming and the inefficiency of farming animals. You can use precision fermentation. Now, they have run life cycle analyses on this and compared to dairy farming, depending on the products. Like for example, this is for whey protein. Creating whey protein this way uses 96 to 99% less water, creates far fewer greenhouse gases, and uses about half the energy, depending on the product. So there's two startups in particular that I want to spotlight because they actually are bringing products to the market or already have them on the market. One is called New Culture. They are specializing in casein. Casein, the sad thing about casein is that it's a special molecule, but it's also super complicated. If you look at it, a diagram of a casein protein, it's complex. But this startup says they cracked the code. They figured out how to make casein without cows, and they have done proofs of concept, and they plan to launch their first product, which is mozzarella, animal-free mozzarella in Los Angeles restaurants, supposedly by the end of this year. And this is what their retail products will look like. The other startup I want to mention is Perfect Day Foods. They are actually the most successful out of all of these non-dairy or animal-free startups. They specialize in whey, and they've also partnered with major brands like Breyer's Ice Cream. This year, Breyer's launched an ice cream tub featuring their animal-free whey protein. They've also come out with a line of products like Bored Cow, which is in Target right now. It's literally dairy milk, but without the cow. And I haven't tried it yet, but it's supposed to taste like Bored Cow. And they also created a cream cheese that you can find on shelves right now, and I brought some samples for you if you want to try it too. So, what's really cool about precision fermentation is not only are you making the same protein, the animal protein without the animal, but you can control the characteristics of the protein. For example, their whey protein, unlike dairy, like cow-based whey protein, is lactose-free, and they can also control it to contain more protein, less sugar, and there was another thing. Oh, and there's no hormones. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Dairy products from cows are full of hormones because they're drinking from a pregnant lactate animal. So lots of estrogen and stuff like that. So this is hormone free. Here, yeah. Okay, so that's how we make it from yeast. Now, volcanoes. So this is Yellowstone National Park, and Yellowstone Park is actually, it's in Wyoming. It's actually, I didn't know this until I did research. The entire park is a volcano. It's considered a super volcano, one of the largest super volcanoes in the entire world. So some years ago, a group of scientists went to Yellowstone they were doing research for NASA. They were trying to find microbes that could survive in extreme conditions like Yellowstone's hot springs. And not only did they find stuff, they found a very interesting microbe that was edible and super nutritious. So they took this thing back home with them and they named it Phi, F-Y. According to the researchers, Phi is new to the world. It's never been consumed before as a protein source. No one even knew it existed until they found it in Yellowstone. Phi belongs to the fungi family, fully edible, and it's really rich in protein. There was supposed to be a little reveal there, but I just ruined it. So no, these companies, these scientists, they sat on Phi for a while. Actually, they didn't do much with it, but as the environmental issues with animal agriculture began to become more known, they realized Phi could be like the future of food, future protein. So they collected money from investors and they became nature's Phi, like with the spelling, the play on the spelling. Yeah, that was my reveal. That's not even how and it was interesting to know Nature's Fine has raised $500 million from investors, which is mind blowing, because there's some, yeah, that's the Bill Gates, but he only donated no, $500 million because there's investors who really believe that Phi could be the future. Now, this is an actual photo of Phi. It's like a microscopic fungi. They grow it in sheets using traditional fermentation methods. There's no genetic engineering and biotech. And compared, one of the things they're making is cream cheese, which I have in cookies for you today. And compared to dairy cream cheese, they also did a life cycle analysis on the environmental impact. Compared to dairy cream cheese, you can see Phi uses 99% less land, produces a fraction of the greenhouse gases, much less water, and there's no methane. It's also obviously free of hormones, and there was one more thing about it. And here's some more things about Phi. And I promise you, nobody paid me to talk about Phi like this. I just talk about it. It has more protein than raw peas. It contains all 9 essential amino acids, which makes it like a complete protein. And it contains beta-glucans and prebiotic fiber, which are really good for digestion. So it's like a super protein. And Nature's Fine cream cheese is now at a store near you, and they're finding, like I said, cookies with it. Okay, that's how we make cheese from volcanoes. All right, I want to close with this. Because of the scale and the devastation caused by industrial dairy farming, and dairy farming is expanding around the world, the dairy industry is kind of diabolical because they're moving into areas, regions of the world that don't historically consume dairy and where most people are lactose intolerant, like East Asia and Africa. But yeah, dairy farming, even though it's bad, it is expanding. So, because so much habitat loss and pollution is caused by it, one of the best things you can do for wildlife and the planet is, guess what? Consume less dairy. And whether that comes from plant-based sources, the precision fermentation, or volcanoes, the cows and the planet will thank you.